Welcome everyone. My name is Helga Janssen-Daubia. I'm the Program Manager at Activate Change Drivers. I'd like to acknowledge those of us that have taken the time to join us as we launch our Social Innovation Summit platform at the South African Innovation Summit. I'd like to acknowledge some people in the room, our activators who have joined us today, our partners, through our Zloto currency, and of course our activator staff. I'd like to make a special welcome to our Chief Executive, Chris Meintjes. Before I start and before I call Chris up, I'd just like to very briefly give you some background to our participation in the Innovation Summit. It's the second time that we participate, and this time we are hosting the social innovation platform in the South African Innovation Summit, and we're very excited about this. I think it's only right that social innovation is in part led by youth, and we as Activate Change Drivers are extremely thrilled to bring our members from our network into this space so that they can showcase and show off the innovations in the social development space, in the tech space, and generally in the innovation space. So we are exceptionally proud to host them. Our network is diverse in all aspects, rural and urban, diverse in terms of gender in all its permutations, in all its iterations, and of course diverse in terms of the many cultural groupings and colors in South Africa. So we are extremely proud of how our network has grown over the last 7 years. To tell you more about social innovation and Activate and the Activate network, I'm going to call our CEO, Chris Meintjes, and he'll tell you more. Thank you.
Yeah. A very warm welcome to all of you who've come today. It's very nice to see the faces of a team that I'm very much a part of. It's also awesome to see activators out there. Thanks for coming through and also sharing your stories. So, it's been an interesting journey to this juncture because young people are at the heart of what we do. And we're now starting to journey into the social innovation space, which is a key part of our work. But maybe I need to give you guys a little bit of an introduction for those of you who do not know Activate as to who we are and what we do. So, out there at the moment, if you can think about South Africa, out there are thousands of young people that do amazing things every day. They get up in the morning and they may come from communities that remain very isolated. They may come from communities where they haven't had access to the most amazing resources, but they get up in the morning and they do good every day. Whether they're working in their communities or at their schools or their libraries or their clinics or they're just helping out the family, they do the most amazing work. And in these spaces, there are some amazing ideas that emerge. But sadly, because of that isolation, they don't get a chance to showcase their ideas. They also don't get a chance, in many cases, to earn an income from the work that they're doing, because most of the young people in these isolated spaces volunteer. And they have such heart and passion for the work that they're doing. So ultimately, our mission some 6.5 years ago was to start finding these young people and bringing them into the Activate family. I suppose you could call it a family. And the idea was if we could find amazing young people across the country and bring them into a training space, we could help grow a little bit of their capacity, but also create connections. And the connections part is really important. Connections that would last a lifetime. Connections that would enable them to do things they would otherwise never have dreamt being possible. And also connections that would have taken them maybe a few steps forward in the work that they were doing. Paying tribute to activators, though, activators do the most amazing things all over the show. I can't even start the list of all the amazing things that they do. So our job was then to strengthen who they are, or help shape the identity of a young person and also the strength of being a young person, because young people have all the energy in the world, but are often sort of forgotten to the side because all the older folk are trying to build their careers and build their initiatives. But young people, 18 to 35-year-olds, are the engine of any global economy. They're also the engine of social innovation. They're engines of anything that you want to achieve can be achieved by that young cohort. We were there to look at skills and tools and social capital, as I've mentioned, but also trying to address some of the big social issues. So there's so many big social issues that affect people. And this is really the heart of innovation, because if you can think creatively about some of the challenges we faced with, you may potentially be on the verge of creating something of value for the whole world. Page 1 done. Don't know what the time is like. Yeah. So just giving you an idea of who Activate is. I know most of you are part of the team, but imagine if there was a network of young people who were leading this, a network of young people that had come together and connected with each other, a network of people that came from the cities, came from peri-urban areas, came from deep rural isolated communities that were all part of this family. And imagine if they birthed a new responsible and accountable leadership that gave new hope to the possibility of a brighter future for South Africa. That's really key. Now imagine if they existed. Well, they do exist. There are 3,500 activators as part of our family right now. 3,500. So we're almost 7 years into our development, and 3,500 young people have joined this. The number of stories that have emerged from the network over the last 6.5 years, amazing. The amount of impact that young people are having on their families, on their own worlds, on their communities, even working on initiatives that cover the country is significant. And Activate is starting to leave its mark. So that said, though, the challenge that we're faced with, and that's really why we are embarking on this journey with the Social Innovation Summit. The challenge we have is so many young people are doing amazing things, but their capacity is limited. Limited really by the system they're a part of. So if you go and attend any event out there that deals with innovation, you often see very high-profile people sharing money with each other. You know, congratulations, you've come up with a great business idea. Well, that's great, but that's not really helping the sort of emergence of social innovation, especially across this huge group of young people who often don't have access to that kind of space. So we've started to have conversations about what this could mean. What could it mean if we started to co-create an ecosystem? And the word I like the most is ecosystem. How do we co-create an ecosystem where we're all partners in crime? So we've got young people full of energy. We've got young people. There's a network called Activate. But there are a lot of other young people that aren't part of the Activate network that would also benefit from this. What happens if we start to have conversations with business leaders, with people with money? Sonia's been spending a little bit of time with CSI departments, and we've started a partnership potentially with the South African Breweries Foundation, or SAB Foundation. I don't know whether they call themselves the South African Breweries Foundation. That's quite a mouthful. Or is it SAB? Yeah, so they're really interesting because they focus primarily on social innovation. It's one of the first organizations I know of in South Africa that primarily focuses on social innovation, not at social entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship incubators, but those kind of conversations where we start to get business involved, government, and other civil society practitioners. If we all work together, we could see the mushrooming of skills and capacity in this group of energized young people where suddenly a whole lot of things are possible. So let's go out there into the ether. Could we, in South Africa, start to create social initiatives that affect change in the way people are educated, in the way we consume healthcare, in the way that we access and leverage a pathway to better careers? Could we create new social systems for land ownership? Could we have conversations about things that affect interconnectedness across generation, across issue areas like gender-based violence? We could be having those conversations, and we are having those conversations. But how do we create the wind beneath the wings of young people so that they can socially innovate, but also work in those spaces? I spent so much time with activators who work at the local Kentucky Fried Chicken to put food on the table, but are actually running some amazing initiatives. Now, wouldn't it be amazing if those activators were earning an income directly for doing the amazing work that they're doing? Yes. 1 minute left. Okay. So much to cover and so little time. Yeah. So, ultimately for us, we wanted to find a self-contained space where we could maybe own that space in the future, a social innovation summit. So we're very, very grateful to the South African Innovation Summit team because they've created a space for us, or allowed us to create a space for ourselves. And I'm also very grateful for the team that's put this together, because for the first time this year, we have a space where we can have these conversations. We've also got some very interesting international guests that will be coming out who've done this in other countries. And we're going to be sitting in that space having conversations, also with a bigger group of people. There are thousands of people that attend that event. We are going to be about 100 people. We hope that we get some cross-pollination. Some business people will be there, some funders. And we're going to have conversations on how to birth this ecosystem. And we're going to take these conversations seriously because we want this brand to be part of us. We want to own the Social Innovation Summit in the future. And we want the partners to own it so that every year in South Africa we are building momentum around social innovation for young people. Yeah. And we take that seriously. And there's so much more I want to say, but I'll call it a day. Thank you for your time.
I am a teacher at a school in Siyazingisa Primary School. It is located in Gugulethu. I started off when I was actually studying. I worked with Arti in a project called Africa Can. Africa Can was about tutoring high school kids in Khayelitsha, teaching them maths and science. What happened was we saw there was a school called Bulumko High School where the pass rate was not so good, and we found out that the teacher was actually missing in grade 12. So a grade 12 class did not have a maths teacher in the beginning of the year. So we then started a project called Africa Can. Africa Can was to assist high school students with maths and science, as maths and science is said to be one of the most difficult subjects. And then after some time, I decided that high school kids were not really, my friends because of the fact that we looked the same age. So I wanted to work with the younger kids because we noticed that the foundation was not there. So that's when I moved into the younger kids, where I focused into teaching grade 5, 6, and 7. So I then started a project called Hand in Hand, where I started tutoring kids in maths and science in primary school. That's when I started branching off into spelling bees also. I'm also helping them with quizzes. And we started off maths Olympiads in our own school, where we're actually now starting our first Gussie spelling bee, which will be happening on the 18th of September. What else can I say? Thanks to Activate. If it wasn't for Activate, I wouldn't have met Arti. We were in the same school, in the same town, but we never met. But through Activate, we got to meet, and then we realized that we had the same passion when it comes to education. Coming from a disadvantaged background ourselves, because I was taught in Vernac. English, I was taught in Vernac. Maths, I was taught in Vernac. And yet, it was a problem because the question paper would come in English. So imagine a question paper comes in English and you were taught in Vernac, and then you don't understand how to address this question because you know how to actually, you only know it, you know the explanation only in Vernac, not in English. So that's why we decided to actually branch off into teaching English mostly, so that kids could actually understand the language, and once they start understanding the language, they'll be able to actually answer those answer scripts also, and also be able to articulate also in English. I think that is fine. Thank you.
So if you want to know more about Kagiso, join us at the Innovation Summit. Come to upstairs on the first floor. We're there, and he'll be there, and you'll get to know more about his work. I would like to call up Candice Colette. Is it? A 2012 activator, and so she's history, as in history of Activate. We are incredibly proud of her. Again, on the other side of the peninsula, working in Mitchell's Plain and on the Cape Flats with integration and rehabilitation of substance abuse. So we'd like to hear a little bit more from her. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Candice Collicott, and it's fine. And my project is Make It Happen Community Intervention. And how it came about was I live in Mitchell's Plain, and my brother is one of the biggest statistics in Mitchell's Plain and on the Cape Flats, and that's drug abuse. That is one of the biggest ills that we face within our community, and my brother was one of those statistics. And as a family member that loves him very much, I had first-hand front row experience of the torture and the ups and the downs that John went through. So essentially what me and my mother did was, we don't have a lot of money. We contacted rehabilitation centers, and the rehabilitation centers wanted to ask us arms and leg prices to help John. Essentially what we did, we found that there are a multitude of rehabilitation centers in our space, but it's very lower level. And it suited our pocket at the time. And at that, when you are dealing with a drug abuse person, you would literally just do absolutely anything for help. So what we did was we started sending John to this rehabilitation centers. What I did was I asked the owners of the rehabilitation centers if I could just sit in, see what they do and things like that, because I was very, very invested in John's progress, obviously to get off from the drugs. And essentially how it worked was, as we took John from rehab to rehab, I noticed that each rehab had like a black and white outlook on how they educated their participants. Many of the times it would be more authoritarian. I would tell you, you don't tell me. It would be everything is black and white. It would actually be to a point where many of them even had more low self-esteem. They would do horrible things to the boys, and they actually breeded more low self-confidence. It broke my heart because as someone that's actually looking for help, it's very difficult for you to come in and say, listen, oh my goodness, like give these people a voice, help them, make it fun, put some color in the situation. So what I did was I approached the owners of the rehabilitation centers, and I said, let me come in and let me do workshops on a weekly basis here. It's an array of workshops, but essentially what it is, it's about making it fun, interactive, listening to the people, giving each and every one a voice, and making sure that the people that comes to the workshops feels their power and their value, because that's what lacked the drug abuse rate of lowering, is because you left these people feeling even worse. It's what I tell you, this is how it is. So essentially I pitched it to the owners of the drug rehabilitation centers, and they said, listen, we're going to give you an opportunity. We basically just scrapped out what can I say, what I can't do, and things like that, and essentially that was it. Luckily I'm a manager currently at Amazon, and I work 4 days a week. So that was very convenient for me because I had 3 days off, one to create my workshop and the other one to actually go and do the workshop. What I did was in order to catapult my NGO, they would actually give me a rate off from John's attendance at the rehabilitation centers, and it will be on a weekly basis. And essentially the feedback, I brought the information with the feedback that you get from these participants when you give them a voice and when you make sure that, you really are an amazing person, and kind of tapping into what is special and what's passionate and what you're passionate about, and just blowing it up to a point where they actually start to believe in themselves, and to get the feedback from the participants after each workshop. To see what can I do different at the next rehabilitation center to better it all the time. It was so amazing to see the change that you have on these people when you actually start treating them as human beings and you're supporting them, as opposed to putting them down and treating them as if they do not exist. So that's what Make It Happen is all about. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's what it is.
You know what I like about Activate and activators like Agisu and like Candice is that you are reinterpreting and helping us to re-articulate what innovation means. We know the scourge of substance abuse on the Cape Flats, but you've gone and you've innovated a model where supporting the rehabilitation is taken on a different angle. So thank you for that. Our last innovator, Siyabonga. Yeah. So from rehabilitation, from science and maths to a different take on tourism economy in Khayelitsha. I give you Siyabonga, who is the founder, CEO of Right to Empower. We're incredibly proud of him. Again, if you want to know more about Right to Empower, come to the Innovation Summit.
Yes. The top? Okay. Igama lami ndinguSiyabonga Mpapa from the United States of Khayelitsha. I know I can see everyone was expecting me to say I come from a Qobo, but it's the United States of Khayelitsha. But I'm the founder of Right to Empower. Let me tell you about Right to Empower, how Right to Empower started. I was a volunteer at Love Life, and Love Life was sponsored 100 bikes by Kubeka. So they were not using the bikes. The bikes were supposed to be used by Impinji and groundbreakers, but that was not happening. So I saw the bikes and I saw an opportunity because everyone was now doing tours around the Khayelitsha, taking people around. But there was no one who was doing cycling tours. So I wanted to promote cycling tours, but at the same time make money for myself and capitalize, but at the same time making change in our community, because what I've realized is that you can't give if you have nothing to offer. So I've been doing things for free at Khayelitsha and doing volunteering in most of the organizations, but you find that the next day you don't have money to come to town to attend an important meeting, but you are doing good in the township. So like, okay, how about I rent out bicycles to tourism companies and also do investment tours. So what is investment tours? I also studied the ecosystem of a Khayelitsha and also the micro enterprises as a Khayelitsha. Yeah, I sound. So we studied the ecosystem of a Khayelitsha and the micro enterprise at Khayelitsha. We have 2.4 million people at Khayelitsha, with 45,000 people who are going out of the Khayelitsha on a daily basis. So the money, they spend most of the money outside of the Khayelitsha. We have white people who want to come to the township, but they don't know if it's safe or not. But we have tour guides also that are already doing tours and they're targeting people who are coming from US and outside of East South Africa. So we wanted to create an experience for locals, for white people who want to come to a Khayelitsha and make change, not just come and experience a Khayelitsha and then the next day you're going outside of a Khayelitsha. So you need to invest something at Khayelitsha. So we call it investment tours. So what we want is people to come and invest something. You don't have to invest with finances, but you can mentor someone. You can develop a website for a company from a Khayelitsha. You can mentor high school activists. You can mentor entrepreneurs from a Khayelitsha. So you can invest your time. By investing your time, then you can make change, because that's the only way to alleviate poverty. Because Khayelitsha, as much as we have a lot of people, there's a lot of high crime rate, and also we know about poverty and also teenagers having sex. There's a lot of negative things, but no one is telling the good story about the Khayelitsha. When you go to a Khayelitsha, no one knows about the Khayelitsha canoeing, no one knows about the 18 Gangster Museum in Khayelitsha, no one knows about the restaurant in Khayelitsha. So we want people to come and experience a quality service, and as well as meeting local people, and we're not going to do like a formal maybe experience where we treat you like an outsider. You'll feel as part of the community and also engage and have conversation with the community so that you can see if you can help, but you're not forced to help. So our duty is to connect people and also facilitate the conversation and making sure that there's change at Khayelitsha. Thanks, guys.
I'd like to, as our final speakers, introduce you to Senzo and Alan. They are the originators, leaders in digital currency from Athlone. I was blown away when I heard this. These are alternative currency developers on the Cape Flats. And their model says that you get rewarded in vouchers or in digital currency for your hours of volunteerism. And they have, at this point, 45,000 people on their platform? No, 25,000. Sorry. Okay, I'm paying it forward for you. Paying it forward. They have 25,000, which is still amazing. They've been an enormous support to young people who often say we don't have the experience to go for jobs. And when we get interviews, we don't have clothes, we don't have access to public transport, we don't have the resources. Zlotto is that resource. They're going to tell you a little bit more about it, but I also would like them to tell us what Zlotto means. I know it's in an Eastern European country. I can't language. I think it's Ukrainian, and it means something. So let me call up Senzo and Alan, and they'll tell us more about Zlotto.
So my name is Alan. I feel it in. I'm excited to be here. I've been moved by what I've heard. So we borrowed it from the Czech Republic, and it means gold because people are more valuable than gold. So that's why we chose the name Zlotto. Because if you actually go and actively look for a job, we did some calculations, just dressing up, making sure your hair is cut, being well dressed and whatever, and being able to travel could cost you something like 1,200 Rand a month. So now you unemployed, having to spend 1,000 Rand for a job opportunity. You know, that's not worth it. You can't go home and, oh, mom, I just need 1,200 Rand and I might get a job. No, you just stay at home and you just eat 2 slices of bread a day and we'll be fine. That makes a bit more sense. You know, and then it was like, what can we do to solve that situation? And the common thought is normally, let's give someone bread, let's give someone this. But in Mitchell's Plain and a lot of the other communities are the same. People become dependent on handouts. And the minute someone gets an handout, it's like, oh, why must I work? You know, if I can get the grant for being at home, you want me to go to the office. Again, it creates the wrong type of culture. I was thinking people can still get what they want, but they have to put in an effort. So someone can show up to a mechanic and like, look, I know my way around nuts and bolts. Is it possible for me to just volunteer with you? You don't have to pay me at all. I just want to learn about cars and how to repair them. And then this person can log into Zlato, tell us about what they did in detail, provide a couple of pictures, and we'll then issue them with Zlato, which is like a type of point system. And then they can purchase various things, but only things that could help them find employment. So they'll be unable to purchase cigarettes or alcohol. They can drink if they want to, but we're not going to sponsor their drinking habits, you know. There's enough people are doing that in Mitchell's Plain, so that's not our market, you know. So we just want them to make sure that whatever they put in, they will get something out.
So hi everyone, my name is Senzo. I also work for Zlato. So I'm actually not from Athlone also, I'm from Khayelitsha. So I'm a proud Khayelitshan, if you can call it that. Yeah. So the work that I do is that I also used to become a volunteer on the platform. So what I used to do is to tutor at an after school program, just like my comrade has mentioned before. So I used to tutor. So through this, I managed to accumulate quite a lot of points. So I started to become sort of an asset to the Zlato team. In fact, a liability to the Zlato team, because I was the guy that is constantly asking for things to be uploaded on the store, buying a lot of items, because I had so much point that I was number one on the platform for quite a number of months. So what Ellen decided to do and the Zlato team is that let's rather have this person work for us rather than have them as a liability for the entire company. So now I work for Zlato to assisting Ellen running the startup. So I want to speak more about the store that we have on the platform. Ellen mentioned that the kind of items that are there on the store are things that enable a volunteer to be able to reduce costs that they have on their daily basis. Because what you find, I like what someone mentioned here before, is that when you do volunteering work, it's not really paying financially, because yes, you would like to help the community and assist where you can, but there's not a lot of rewards. You are unable to put bread on the table. So what we then decide is that put up items for people on the store in order for them to not have excuses about volunteering. So all the stuff that is on the store is things that are put there in order to eliminate the cost. So we have things like Golden Arrow bus tickets, which a person can use to travel back and forth while you're trying to look for a job. We have partnership with ShopRite, so you can buy various food products. We have airtime on the store where you can buy data to go for job searches on the internet. So all those things have been well thought of and well put there in order to make sure that we reduce the cost of the volunteer. And another cool thing that we do have on the app is the work asset. So what happens is that the amount of hours that you volunteer for and the activities that you do are captured on what we call the work asset. So this says every hour and every minute that you spend volunteering is kept, so that when you do go and look for a job, you can then download that in the form of a PDF, then show to your employer that, yes, I've been unemployed for 5 years, but in that 5-year period, this is all the work that I've been doing. So it actually works out quite good for the volunteering guys, because it's something that they can show, and if they want references and someone to talk to, they can call us and we can vouch and show them every transaction that they have on the platform. And that is then stored to what we call the blockchain, which is quite a big word in these days. But we'll talk more about that in the summit, so that you don't spill everything there. So lastly, we've been asked, we made clear at the summit in Joburg, so we are trying to form a partnership or working on building a partnership with the Switch Activate program, where we want to see how can we then incorporate this to the network of people that are running organizations. How can then they reward their volunteers that are doing amazing stuff for their organizations. So we are looking forward to the summit. So everyone that is thinking about whether to come or not, I advise you to come. So be there. Let's meet there, and we'll also have a showcasing of the actual app. We are actually launching version 2 of the app at the end of at the beginning of September. So we're gonna launch a new version.